Just when everything looked perfect at Downton Abbey, a beautiful wedding, smiling faces and peace in the family, something dark was brewing beneath the surface. A hidden truth was waiting to explode. Fans didn't see it coming, but it was there, hidden in the smallest looks, the quietest whispers, and the secrets no one wanted to face. The moment it came out, it changed everything. What was supposed to be a happy ending turned into a shocking scandal that left viewers stunned. The story of Downton Abbey 3 begins in a hopeful, peaceful tone. The Crawley family prepares for big changes, both joyful and bittersweet. Tom Branson, once the rebel Irish chauffeur, is now fully part of the family and ready to marry Lucy Smith. Their wedding is not just about love, it's a symbol of how far the family has come. Old traditions and new beginnings blend together. There's laughter, music, and dancing. Everyone seems happy. But there's something in the air, an uneasy feeling that not everything is as perfect as it seems. Lady Mary, now the strong and practical head of the estate, is handling everything. With her usual calm face, she manages the staff, the house, and the family with sharp eyes and quiet power, but even she can't stop what's coming. In her scenes, there's a tension that feels heavy, as if she's holding something back. She looks tired. She looks worried, but why? That's the question. Meanwhile, the Dowager Countess, Violet Crawley, is dealing with something she's kept private, a secret illness that's slowly taking her strength. She jokes about it, tries to keep the mood light, but she knows the truth. She knows time is running out. And she's hiding something even bigger, a secret that has to do with her past. A man in France, and something that could shake the Crawley family forever. Downstairs, the staff are also trying to enjoy the good times. Mr. Carson is proud but worried about his health. Mrs. Hughes sees the changes coming and quietly supports everyone. Daisy and Andy are growing closer. Mr. Barrow, the once cold and bitter footman, is starting to hope for a new kind of life. For a short while, it feels like all the wounds from the past are healing, but just when the Crawleys travel to France to accept an unexpected inheritance, that peaceful feeling begins to crack. Questions arise. Why would a man in France leave? A villa to the Dowager Countess? Who was he to her? What happened so many years ago that she never told anyone? Hints start to appear. A letter that Violet reads in silence. The way she looks at her son Robert and the worry in her eyes. Something is coming, something big. But no one wants to say it out loud. As the film moves through its first half, everything feels like the calm before a storm. Fans are treated to romance, jokes, and familiar faces. But under all of it, there's a slow build-up to something no one is ready for. A truth that will not only hurt the Crawleys, but change how we see them. And then, just when we think it's all about weddings and farewells, the real story begins to reveal itself. It wasn't announced with a scream. There were no angry fights or broken glasses. The scandal at the heart of Downton Abbey 3 came like a soft wind, but it shook the very walls of the estate. It all began with a quiet conversation, a simple line, a few words said by Violet Crawley that stopped everyone in their tracks. When she revealed the reason a French villa had been left to her, fans were stunned. She had once been very close to the Marquis de Montmorency. So close, in fact, that it raised a terrible question. Was Robert truly Lord Grantham's son? Or did his blood come from a man across the sea? For a family that lived by titles, names, and noble blood, this was more than just gossip. This was a bomb. Robert, who had always believed in honor and tradition, now faced the unthinkable. If the scandal were true, he might not be the rightful heir to Downton Abbey at all. Everything he had believed about his father, his name, and even his place in the world was shaken. His hands trembled. His face turned pale. And in that one moment, he no longer looked like the strong head of the family. He looked like a lost boy. The timing could not have been worse. While the rest of the family tried to enjoy the warm French sun, Robert was locked inside his own mind, trying to hold back the storm. But the questions kept coming. Why had Violet kept this secret for so long? Why now, when everything seemed stable, had the truth come out? What made this scandal even more painful was that Violet didn't offer full answers. She left it to mystery. She hinted, she smiled sadly, but she didn't say for sure. Was she protecting Robert, or protecting herself? Her final words on the matter were simple. In my heart, he has always been my son, and that's what matters. But to a man raised on titles and history, those words were not enough. The scandal didn't just shake Robert. It sent silent waves through the entire family. Mary looked at her father differently. Edith, always sensitive to family drama, was more thoughtful than usual. Even Tom, who had once stood on the outside, felt the shift in the air. The estate felt colder, the laughter quieter. It was as if the house itself knew that a storm had passed through, even if no one would speak of it aloud, and yet the outside world saw none of it. The guests danced, the music played, and the wedding pictures looked perfect. But behind every smile was a question that could never be answered. That's what made this scandal so powerful. It wasn't loud, it wasn't cruel. It was quiet, deep, and personal. It wasn't just about truth, it was about identity. About who we are when the stories we believed all our lives suddenly feel like lies. Fans across the world reacted with shock. Some cried, others refused to believe it. Online theories exploded. Did Violet lie to protect her son? Or was the Frenchman truly Robert's father? The movie gave just enough to stir the pot and then left us wondering, and that's the genius of the scandal. It didn't need proof to hurt, just doubt. Doubt strong enough to shake even Downton Abbey's strongest pillars. Asterisk, she had ruled. Downton with sharp wit and a raised eyebrow. But now, the great Violet Crawley, the Dowager Countess, was facing the one thing even she could not outtalk or outsmart, the end. And though she had faced every battle in life with elegance, this one came quietly with grace. And one last secret still tucked inside her heart. As her health slowly faded, Violet kept her usual pride. She smiled at dinner, made her famous, cutting remarks, and even teased Mary about her leadership. But behind the sparkle in her eyes was a shadow growing deeper each day. She knew her time was short. She had made peace with it. What she hadn't made peace with, though, was the one truth she still hadn't told anyone: the real reason behind the villa in France, and the depth of her connection to the late Marquis de Montmiral. In one of the film's most powerful scenes, Violet called Mary to her bedside. Her voice was softer now, her words chosen carefully. She told Mary she had always believed in her strength, her power to lead the family and the estate. But then came a moment so still, so quiet, even the audience leaned in. Violet confessed that long ago, during a trip to France, she had shared something more than just a friendship with the Marquis. "There are some stories too private to share," she said. "But sometimes even private stories must be passed down." It wasn't a full confession. Violet never said the words clearly. But the look in her eyes said it all. Mary understood, and the audience understood too. This was the reason behind the villa. This was why Robert's world had been shaken. And this was the Dowager Countess's final burden, laid gently into Mary's hands. The goodbye that followed was unlike any other in the series. Violet didn't want tears. She didn't want sad music or mourning. She wanted smiles. She wanted her family to live on with strength, with pride. And when she finally passed, it wasn't in a grand scene. It was quiet, dignified. She left the world as she lived in it, on her own terms. With her legacy strong behind her, Mary tried to hold herself together, but viewers could see the heartbreak beneath her calm. Robert, still carrying the weight of doubt about his bloodline, broke down in silence, alone in a hallway. Even Barrow, the proud and distant butler, stood still with red eyes, his heart quietly breaking for the woman who had once scolded him, challenged him, and seen something more in him. And then came the funeral. The sun lit up the estate in a soft golden hue. Violet's portrait stood tall, surrounded by flowers and memories. Everyone gathered to say goodbye, but this wasn't just about a death. It was about the end of an era. With Violet gone, Downton would never be the same, yet somehow she had prepared them for this. Through her words, her secrets, and even her silence, Violet had passed on more than just a title or a house. She had passed on the soul of Downton Abbey, and as the family stood together, shoulder to shoulder, Something new began to rise in the quiet air, something that felt like courage. For the fans, this moment was heartbreaking. It was beautiful. It was perfect. The Dowager Countess, who once stole every scene with her sharp tongue, gave her last scene with only a whisper and left the world speechless. Asterisk, it didn't end with a bang. It ended with a quiet, knowing look between Mary and her father. That one moment said everything. Downton Abbey 3 didn't need to shout its ending. It simply let the characters speak through silence, through smiles hiding grief, and through choices that promised change. But if you watched closely, the final scenes whispered a deeper truth. The world of Downton is changing forever. Violet's death wasn't just the loss of a beloved matriarch. It was the closing of a grand chapter. For years, she had been the soul of tradition, the keeper of the old ways. With her gone, the estate now belongs to a new generation, one that must carry the legacy into a world that's no longer the same. Lady Mary, standing quietly in the drawing room, isn't just a daughter or a mother now. She is the true head of Downton. And she knows it, but what fans didn't expect was how much the ending hinted at beginnings. The story of Tom and Lucy's marriage is more than a romantic plot, it's a symbol. A former chauffeur and a once-hidden heir now stand united, showing that class no longer controls love or power. Edith, who had always fought for respect, now flourishes with a voice and career of her own. Even Barrow, once filled with bitterness, finally finds something close to peace. These characters, once trapped in rigid roles, are now free to grow. And that's the message hiding behind the final scenes. Then there's the question everyone's asking, will there be more? The ending leaves space. Violet's death creates new drama. Robert's shaken identity opens more doors. And with the children of Downton growing older, who knows what stories still lie ahead? The torch has clearly been passed, but to whom and at what cost? Some fans believe another film is coming. Others say this was the goodbye. But one thing is certain, Downton Abbey 3 didn't just tie up loose ends. It reopened old wounds, revealed buried secrets, and reminded us that change is not always loud, it's often quiet, painful, and necessary. The scandal wasn't just about Robert's birth. It was about identity. About how much blood, title, and truth really matter, the final message. Sometimes the family you build means more than the family you're born into. So as the credits rolled, and the music faded, many viewers sat in silence. Not because they were confused, but because they were moved. Downton Abbey gave them something rare, a goodbye wrapped in beauty, pain, and grace. And maybe, just maybe, a promise that the story isn't over yet.